A mother of 3, living in a peaceful town, the kind of place where no one locks their doors and everyone knows each other. One night in December 2001, gunshots suddenly rang out from a home in the middle of the neighborhood. When police arrived, they found a neighbor dead and a mother clutching her children in a panic. She told them she had fired in self-defense to protect her kids from 2 intruders who broke in. Almost instantly, she was hailed as a hero. But then, the details started to fall apart, and over the next 10 years, a horrifying secret slowly unraveled. In the eyes of the people of Early, a town of fewer than 1,000, Tracy Richter was the perfect mother. She lived in a picture-perfect house at the end of the block with her husband and 3 children, a family so wholesome it could have been in a magazine. On Sunday mornings, Tracy would take her kids to church. Her blonde hair was neatly styled, her dress modest, her smile effortless. She held little Mason's hand, while Noah ran ahead in the yard, drawing warm chuckles from the congregation. Mrs. Smith, the neighbor, once said, "Tracy always stopped to ask how I was doing. And when it got cold, she'd bring over muffins." To them, she was kind, thoughtful, dependable. She helped at school bake sales, cooked for church events, and even gave relationship advice to her friends. Always busy, but never complaining. People loved her, trusted her. But some things you can only see when you're really close. And with Tracy, no one ever got close enough. It was just after 6 p.m., December 13th, 2001. Tracy said she had been giving her youngest daughter Mason a bath when she heard noises downstairs. She thought maybe her husband Michael had come home early from his business trip, but the footsteps were too fast, too heavy. According to Tracy, 2 men burst into the house. One of them was her teenage neighbor, 20-year-old Dustin Weedy. The other, a stranger. She said she didn't recognize him. They ran up the stairs. Tracy barely had time to react before she was yanked by her ponytail and thrown to the ground. She said they choked her with a pair of pantyhose. Her vision blurred. She passed out. When she came to, her children were screaming. The men were trying to kick in the door where her kids were hiding. Somehow, Tracy said, she made it to the gun safe, fumbling with the code while the intruders screamed behind her. And then, by the time the police arrived, 1 man was dead, shot 9 times. It was Dustin. The other had fled. But when investigators looked closer, something didn't make sense. The doors hadn't been forced open. There were no broken locks, no shattered windows. The house was untouched, and all of Tracy's expensive jewelry, some worth tens of thousands of dollars, was still in plain sight. She told police the men didn't ask for money, didn't steal a thing. "They were here for me," she said. "They wanted me dead." But why? While processing the scene, police took a closer look at Dustin's car, still parked neatly outside Tracy's home. Nothing inside seemed out of place until they found a small spiral notebook. Pink, childish, innocent. But what was written inside was anything but. The pages were filled with frantic handwriting, and according to the words on the paper, Dustin claimed he had been hired to kill Tracy. And not just Tracy, but her 11-year-old son, Bert. The person who allegedly hired him, John Pittman, Tracy's ex-husband. The implications were massive. If true, this wasn't a break-in. It was a murder plot, a contract hit. But as investigators read further, doubts began to creep in. For one, Dustin Weed had never met John Pittman. They lived in different states, different worlds, no connection, no motive. Second, the notebook. It wasn't signed. There were no dates. And the handwriting, it was Dustin's. But not quite, like someone had told him what to write. Was it a confession or a setup? Police weren't sure yet, but one thing was clear. This pink notebook changed everything. As investigators dug deeper into the shooting, they began looking at Tracy herself, and what they found didn't look good. Years before Early, Iowa, there was Denver. There was John Pittman, her first husband. Their relationship, once picture-perfect, had turned toxic. John was a doctor, quiet, hardworking. Tracy, she was volatile, unpredictable. One night, during an argument, Tracy stormed upstairs, came back down, holding a gun. She aimed it at John. He ran. A single shot rang out behind him. Tracy told police it was a suicide attempt, but she was still standing, and the bullet hit no one. Not long after, she accused John of sexual abuse, of hurting their son, but no evidence was ever found. The case was dropped. Still, the damage was done. Later, during their divorce, another accusation surfaced. Tracy had allegedly forged John's signature on a life insurance policy. She'd made herself the beneficiary, without him ever knowing. What began as emotional chaos was starting to look like a pattern. The deeper police looked, the more questions surfaced. Was Tracy always the victim? Was Tracy always the victim, or had she been writing her own story? One accusation at a time. At first, Michael Roberts believed every word his wife said. He stood by her side in front of the cameras, called her a hero. He even offered a $10,000 reward to help find the second intruder. But behind closed doors, doubt was growing. Michael had lived with Tracy long enough to notice something was off. Her stories about the night of the shooting never quite stayed the same. Details shifted, descriptions changed. Sometimes there were two men, other times she wasn't sure. And one day, Michael came forward. He told investigators something that changed the game. There was no second man, he said. It was always just Dustin. He'd gone back over everything, her version of events, the police reports, even her bruises. It didn't add up. Not only that, he'd heard her, during arguments, contradict herself, mention things no one had told her yet, say things like, "They'll never find out. They'll believe what I say." So Michael made a choice. He went to the police. And for the first time, the image of Tracy, brave, heroic mother, started to crack. Truth doesn't always come crashing in. Sometimes it whispers from the person closest to you. Nearly a decade after that fateful December night, the case many believed was closed quietly reopened. In 2011, Tracy Richter was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. A new investigation was launched, deeper, more meticulous, and this time, not built on Tracy's emotional testimony alone. Forensic experts got involved, and their findings were chilling. Dustin Weedy had been shot a total of 9 times. 3 of those bullets entered the back of his head, fired from above. The angle and pattern of the shots made one thing clear. This wasn't self-defense. This was execution. There were no signs of forced entry. The doors to the house were intact. Valuables, tens of thousands in jewelry, were left untouched. If it had been a robbery, the intruders seemed oddly uninterested in taking anything. And then there was the pink notebook found inside Dustin's car, the one that supposedly proved he had been hired to kill Tracy and her son. But forensic tests revealed something more sinister. Yes, the handwriting was Dustin's, but under pressure. Experts believed he was forced to write those confessions. They weren't spontaneous. They weren't real. Investigators concluded that Tracy had lured Dustin to her home that night, coerced him into writing a fake confession, and then shot him to death, all to frame her ex-husband John Pittman in an elaborate lie. The once praised story of a brave mother defending her family crumbled. Tracy wasn't a hero. She was the architect of a cold, calculated murder disguised as self-defense. The verdict was final: first-degree murder. Tracy Richter, once praised as a heroic mother, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. You'd think that behind bars it would all stop, but it didn't. From prison, Tracy kept writing letters, blaming her ex-husband, the man who once stood by her. She made threats, launched accusations, and did everything she could to ruin the lives of those she held a grudge against. And somehow, even then, her son Bert still believed in her. The little boy she claimed to protect that night, now grown, spoke publicly in campaigns claiming his mother was innocent, still holding on to the version of her he once knew. As for Michael, her second husband, he knew that if he didn't leave, the past would never let his family breathe. He took the children and left the United States, returning to Australia to build a new life. Somewhere Tracy could no longer reach them. But what no one knew was this: Tracy had once pointed a gun at her ex-husband, faked a suicide attempt, and accused an innocent man. All because she couldn't get what she wanted. But there was one truth no one knew, one that never made it to the headlines. Long before the shooting, Tracy had once pointed a gun at her ex-husband in the middle of a heated argument. When he fled the house in fear, she staged a suicide attempt, then called the police, claiming he was abusive. No evidence, no bruises, just her word. She had done it before, accused the innocent when she couldn't get her way. And now, years later, she had done it again. This wasn't about protecting her children. It wasn't self-defense. It was never about survival. It was about something else entirely: control.